I handed my daughter the equivalent of about $1,050, which amounted to my entire monthly retirement pension. Without exchanging a word, I quietly headed towards a suicide support center. Yet an unforeseen turn awaited me there. The date, August 15, 2024, marks the day I realized I had become an economic burden to my daughter. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Parker, and I've reached the age of 73. In 2005, my husband tragically succumbed to cancer. In a blink, he was gone, leaving behind a staggering debt of $210,000, which weighed heavily on my shoulders. I would often remind myself, it's okay, it's okay. What he left behind is the future for our child. And so, convincing myself, I took up a daytime job as a custodian and added nighttime office cleaning to my schedule. My sleep dwindled to barely 3 hours a night, and there were days where even a bath was a luxury I couldn't afford. Why did I push through such a life? Because I wanted my daughter, Susan, to attend a prestigious international high school. People around us laughed, saying it was beyond our reach. Nonetheless, I was determined to fulfill a dream my husband couldn't, that of giving Susan the best life possible. Then, in 2015, my resilience met its limit. I had to sell our modest, 40-year-old house. "Mom, please stop. You don't need to go to such lengths," Susan pleaded with me. Her words seemed distant. Perhaps by then, the only thread keeping me on my feet was my role as a mother. We moved into a small apartment, and I trudged along with my worn-out body, clinging to the feeling of being useful to someone. Then came June 2024, a pivotal month. I slipped on the stairs at a grocery store and broke my left hip. After surgery and a prolonged hospital stay, I moved into Susan's home. "It's my turn to support you now," Susan reassured me with a twinkle in her eye, a momentary glow that gave me hope. Trusting her words, I relocated to her place in the suburbs of New York. However, life was harsher than anticipated. Of my $1,260 monthly pension, I ended up giving around $1,050 as a contribution to the house expenses. "Thank you, Mom. We can manage this month thanks to your help," Susan said with a smile. While I returned the smile, an anxiety of how to make ends meet with the remaining $210 seeped into my heart. On a park bench nearby, I often found myself opening and closing my wallet, counting the spare change, heaving a heavy sigh. But I remained steadfast in my decision not to voice my worries. I'd simply say, "Thank you," aiming to exist quietly without making a fuss. Determined not to interfere with Susan's family life, I intended to just be there, a presence that wouldn't cause any inconvenience. Yet, within the tranquility I craved, something seemed to be slowly unraveling. On the quiet morning of August 1st, at precisely 7 a.m., Susan placed a sheet of paper in front of me as I sat at the kitchen table. "Mom, please look. This is the breakdown of this month's expenses," she gently announced. The paper contained neatly handwritten entries. Breakdown of Mom's August living expenses. Rent, approx. $700. Groceries, approx. $210. Utilities, approx. $140. Total, approx. $1,050. I blinked in disbelief. Wait, am I supposed to pay for all of this? My voice trembled as the paper shook slightly in my grasp. Susan nodded, her brows furrowing ever so slightly. "Yeah, Mom, that's just the way life is. You know that, right? But my pension is only $260. If I pay $1,050, that leaves me with only $210. My voice grew softer, trailing off almost to a whisper. The numbers seemed surreal, and I felt detached from reality, like my heart couldn't keep up with what was happening. Susan exhaled softly, and with a slightly hurried tone, she continued, "Mom, I'm dealing with so much too. The cost of living, the rent, it's all gone up. Even Michael said, if we live together, it's only fair you contribute your share." I found myself at a loss for words. Michael was Susan's boyfriend, someone she seemed to talk about more and more, his name cropping up often in our conversations. I couldn't help but think, oh, in this house, my existence has become nothing more than a financial figure, a mere calculation. It felt like I was being counted not as a person with feelings, but simply as an economic burden, an icy chill spreading within my chest. But, Susan, I can't work anymore. And with just 210, what about my medical bills? Finally, I managed a response. Susan lowered her eyes and replied gently, "If that's the case, maybe we should consider other options. Like a care facility, it might be easier for both of us." Quietly, I shook my head. Age has taken away my ability to lash out with emotions so rapidly. Instead, I straightened my spine and answered calmly, "All right, I'll pay for this month." My voice sounded foreign, as if I were listening to someone else narrate my life from the script of a play. That evening, back in my room, I opened an old wallet, taking out my bank book from a brown envelope where I kept my pension records, checking the balance quietly. 1,260. Those figures felt like a judgment on my life's worth, and tears welled up despite my resolve not to cry. Decades spent nurturing the role of mother, now priced at the value on a single invoice. I had vowed not to shed tears. Still, that night, sleep evaded me. Staring at the ceiling, thoughts swirled as I silently questioned myself. Do I really belong here? The air of unspoken restrictions floating in Susan's home gradually seemed to erase my presence. I am Evelyn Parker, 72 years old. That dinner scene, frozen in time, continues to haunt my mind. August 14. The memory of dinner preparation lingers. While setting plates softly in the kitchen, I heard Susan talking on the phone in the living room. Initially, I paid no attention, focusing on our evening meal as always. Yet, suddenly, her voice lowered, and words came through clearly, forcing me to absorb the unfamiliar reality we were facing. "Yeah, I'm just over it. To be honest, Grandma is such a burden. By next month, I'll have saved enough for a down payment, and after moving into the new apartment, I plan to put her in Sunnyvale Care Home." I felt my breath catch. Sunnyvale Care Home? It was the name on a flyer that had recently found its way into our mailbox. One I had absent-mindedly left on the corner of the table. Written in bold red letters, it said, "For just $350 daily, your living space can be all yours again." I slowly approached the table, picked up the flyer, and traced the letters with trembling fingers. The overlap of Susan's words with the flyers felt like a nail being driven into my chest. I'm a burden. At dinner time, Susan acted as if nothing had happened. She said grace and laughed at the reality TV show on the screen as she ate with her chopsticks. But I couldn't find any humor. The plain rice wouldn't go down easily, and I found myself pretending to sip miso soup without making a sound. "Mom, is there something wrong?" Even when asked, I could only shake my head. "I'm just tired." With every swallow of words I couldn't speak, I felt tears piling in my throat, a feeling that once, as I worked so tirelessly and spent many sleepless nights for my daughter's sake, had meant anything. Come nightfall, in the quiet of my room, I found myself taking out a small medicine bag hidden deep within a drawer. Inside were a few sleeping pills left from when they were prescribed for a broken bone. I wrapped 3 of them in a small handkerchief, placing them gently in my pocket. If I were gone, would Susan's life get a little easier? That thought crossed my mind, but I quickly reconsidered. No, I mustn't think like that. I owe it to myself to keep fighting. Yet the storm of helplessness and despair continued to churn deep within my chest, refusing to dissipate easily. That night, sleep was elusive. Even with a midsummer night outside, where warmth should reign, I felt an inexplicable chill in the air. The corner of a flyer peeking out from under my pillow seemed to whisper an inane, unspoken invitation, beckoning me to the care facility. In the morning, Susan knocked on my door and said, "I might be late from work. Help yourself to what's in the fridge." "I will, dear. Be safe," I replied with a smile, but I wondered, behind my facade of cheer, if anyone noticed how fragile and hollow it truly was. Left alone in the living room, I unfolded the flyer once more. Elderly exclusive. Comprehensive care system. Private rooms. Such words gradually took on a haunting realism. Maybe if I went there, I wouldn't be a burden. I gently placed a hand on the pocket holding the pills. Their cold, round shapes filled me with a peculiar comfort. Just then, an old children's educational program played on TV, a blast from the past, bringing back memories. There, reflected on the screen, was a story I used to read aloud to my students. To live for someone else is to become a part of their memories. At those words, tears began to spill uncontrollably from my eyes. How often had I said I'd live for Susan, become a cherished memory for her sake? Suddenly, a profound realization dawned. I was Evelyn Parker, once Susan's guiding light, and perhaps I could be again. Each tear wasn't just sorrow but remnants of love, scattered through years of exhaustion, determination, and the ever-present, deep-down wish for Susan's best. Whatever path it may take, I often ponder whether I still have the chance to become a cherished part of someone's memory, or if, in my daughter's recollection, I will merely end as just a burden. The answer to that question remains unclear. However, I have decided to linger a bit longer in this world. My name is Margaret Dawson. I turned 72 this year. On the morning of August 15th, at precisely 5 o'clock, the world outside was enveloped in a serene quietude, absent even of the cacophony of busy life. Rising quietly, I extracted an old suitcase from the rear of my closet. One of its wheels had seen better days, and I carefully dragged it along, mindful of the noise it might create. I hoped my daughter, Emily, and her partner, Jason, were still deeply asleep, undisturbed by my actions. As I softly made my way to the living room, resting on the dining table, I placed a brown envelope. Inside were 1,050 and a letter. Thank you truly for everything. As a mother, there may have been times when I failed you, yet these last days we've spent together, I treasure them immensely. I apologize for having become a burden. My hands trembled as I etched each word. Whether leaving in this manner was right or not, even I wasn't sure. It's just, I no longer wished to encroach upon someone else's living space. Into my suitcase went only the basic clothes and medications, alongside a small wooden box. That box holds all my memories. As the bus journeyed towards Manhattan, I rested the box gently on my knees, opening it slowly, retracing those vital memories, one by one. My first recollection was a photograph of Emily during her kindergarten days. Her cheeks were flushed a bright red as she laughed, invoking an involuntary smile on my face. Back then, I would declare, for this child I can do anything. Those days revolved around leaving my job and dedicating every moment to caring for my daughter. Dawn through dusk, memories racing back, just like scenes from a silent movie. The second recollection was a certificate Emily crafted for a school art class. During her third grade year, in large, earnest letters, it read, "To the world's best mom, thank you for all the delicious meals." Tenderly, I pressed the certificate to my forehead and closed my eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily," I murmured silently in my heart, questioning repeatedly where things had veered off course. Lying at the bottom of the box was the death certificate of my husband. He succumbed to cancer more than a decade ago. At that final moment, he implored me, "Live well for Emily's sake." I endeavored to honor that request. However arduous the path, I persisted, working night shifts as a cleaner, even sold our home to repay debts, all for Emily's future. Yet, it seemed I was deemed unnecessary for that future. The cityscape whizzing past the bus's window began to blur. Only then did I realize, as tears traced down my cheeks, how deeply I had become ensnared in this melancholy. "Don't cry, Margaret," I urged myself, whilst reaching for a handkerchief inside my bag. When the bus finally reached the station in Manhattan, the sun was peeking through the cracks between the skyscrapers. "Today's going to be another hot one," I mused to myself, speaking into the ether, and began dragging my suitcase forward. My planned destination wasn't the prearranged elderly care center after all. No, my resolve to truly end things wasn't completely settled. As the bus resumed its course, the familiar hustle of city life surrounded me. Yet I found myself lost in scattered thoughts from a lifetime built not only on struggles, but on beautiful moments spent with Emily. Wouldn't this layer of love become the true burden to abandon if I chose to vanish from it all? The contemplation of leaving something meaningful behind inspired a lingering urge not to sever the ties entirely. Perhaps, tomorrow or the next day, it would become clearer what direction endings should indeed take. I can't go back to the house just yet. I need a little more time to find myself again. Before leaving, I opened the wooden box one last time and read my husband's note again. To Margaret, if life ever feels too difficult, don't run away. Look for your true self instead. You are worth it. With these words in my heart, I took a step forward. Just as I was about to step into the entrance of the support center, my phone began to vibrate. Hello? From the other end of the line came the familiar voice of our old neighbor, Mrs. Teen Johnson. Margaret, she's crying and looking for you. She found passbooks in the closet marked, for graduate school fees, $35,000. I stood there frozen. A passbook for $35,000. It was money I saved by reluctantly selling my cherished piano and setting aside a little each month so that Emily could one day pursue her dream in music. Back when she was in high school, she had expressed her desire to study in Vienna. Her words have stayed with me all these years. Mrs. Johnson's voice continued through the phone. That's not all. A message from Emily arrived on your phone earlier saying, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know you sold the piano. With trembling fingers, I checked the screen. There were indeed words that looked like tears from my daughter. As I sat in the bus, I slowly closed my eyes. I remembered Emily from when she was young. Mom, listen to my piano. It's Chopin. Her small fingers worked diligently across the keys. Despite my exhaustion after work, I repeatedly praised her. You're so good. For her, I felt I could do anything. But when did this change? Mom, that's such an old-fashioned way of thinking. You should be more independent in your thoughts. Living together means following the house rules. These words pierced my heart in ways words never had before. And now, there were tears in her eyes. After I left, she discovered something and regretted it. If there's still time, if there's still something I can do as a mother. I decided to open my phone again and reply to her message. To Emily. I'm near Midtown. If you want to see me, I'll wait for a little while on the bench by the south exit of Grand Central. No reply came. But that's okay. For me, it was just a final check. I sat on the bench holding a small can of coffee in my hand. Inside the old box in my hand was still an unopened letter. In my late husband's handwriting, it read, No matter the day that comes, Margaret is Margaret. No matter what happens to Emily, stay true to the love you believe in. Or, yes, dear husband, I'm not wrong, am I? I'm simply trying to be a mother. The clock's short hand had just passed 10 o'clock when I heard it. Mom! The voice, out of breath, called from afar. Looking back, Ava came running towards me, her eyes swollen from crying, her hair tousled. I'm sorry, really, I knew nothing. I stood up quietly and took her hand. It was enough that you understood, Ava. But, to think I did such things. No. That was an illusion known as youths. There were many things I couldn't realize when I was young too. Mom, come home. Those words melted away all my doubts. Later that night, once we returned home, Ava gently handed me a small brown paper bag. This? The instrument. It's the same model as the piano you had to give up. It's used, but I just had to get it back for you. Inside the bag, there was also a small black music notebook. Written there was the sheet music for Sunset Glow, which I had taught Ava a long time ago. I couldn't hold back my tears. I am Margaret. I'm not entirely healed yet. However, today, I was once again saved by the act of being a mother. The goodbye from that day was not eternal, and, even if denied by the whole world, I believe that a mother's love will reach someone's heart someday, somewhere. I'm Evelyn Parker, September 2024. In a small apartment on the outskirts, I greeted a new morning. That day, ever since hearing Ava's sob-filled voice over the phone, something has been gently melting away in the depths of my heart. Mom, please come back. I want to start over. To be honest, I was initially filled with confusion and fear. I worried about being betrayed again, thought of as a burden once more. Yet, her voice trembled, bringing back images of the young Ava who once slept on my lap. The day we moved in, Ava placed a handmade sign at the entrance of the room. Mom's home. I pressed my eyes many times at the sight of those 5 words. On the dining table, there was a sheet of paper, neatly folded. Breakdown of costs for September love. 0 happiness. Infinite. I gently ran my fingers over the paper with trembling hands. The child who once measured everything in numbers was now welcoming me with her heart. One night, Ava spoke softly. Mom, I'm sorry. I could only focus on myself. I didn't notice you were working. Through the night cleaning, or that you sold the piano to pay for my tuition. I didn't know anything. I slowly took Ava's hands in mine and smiled, responding, just knowing is enough. In life, there are no such things as too late realizations. As fall deepened, we planted a pot of chrysanthemums on our small balcony. Ava said, when this flower blooms, let's take a picture together again. I nodded, pondering silently within. Perhaps what I wanted most was to be understood. And now, in this quiet and warm room, that understanding is indeed taking root. To my readers, this is a gentle tale of realization, of recognizing value in what lay unnoticed. With a heart brimming with renewed hope, I seek to share with you the deep, unseen connections between a mother and her child. Through moments of misunderstanding and the pain which at times severs us, there blooms an unyielding bond of love. In sharing this story, I wish for a soft understanding in a world sometimes hard to navigate. So, take this heartfelt message as a testament to never cease believing that love and understanding can reach beyond what our hearts may ever hope. Perhaps, right next to you, there's someone silently pouring out their love without a single word. If that person were to suddenly disappear tomorrow, what would you convey to them today? Please do so before it's too late. Awareness holds true meaning only when it is transformed into action. Please share your story as well. We all live surrounded by quiet acts of love, which often remain unnoticed until it's almost too late. As this story unfolds, we witness the relationship between a mother, Margaret Dawson, and her daughter, Ava. Margaret fears becoming a financial burden after retiring. She spent years toiling away, sacrificing her own needs just so Ava could have a better future. Yet now, in her old age, she finds herself at the mercy of her daughter's financial situation. What do you do when the love you've given feels overshadowed by economic tension? Margaret, despite her hardships, faces the emotional turmoil head-on as she uncovers her daughter's plans to place her in an elderly care home, misunderstanding her financial sacrifices. But Margaret's heart wavers when she realizes all the years of her own sacrifices might have been misconstrued. Amidst feelings of rejection and despair, Margaret remembers how she poured every ounce of herself into Ava's future, a commitment that seems to be forgotten. Yet she remains hopeful. The realization of mutual sacrifices and the love embedded in those struggles are keys to rekindling their bond. Understanding blossoms as Margaret experiences both the pain and the beauty of being a mother until she reconsiders her future, contemplating the idea of seizing a different kind of life, possibly without her daughter. It's a poignant reminder that love isn't just about grand gestures, it's in the everyday support, the whispered reassurances, and the endless patience. Through the unraveling story of mother and daughter, the hope is for people to acknowledge the silently profound love lingering in the hearts of those around them. In sharing these heartfelt moments, may it serve as a universal testament to the enduring power of love, ever present and waiting to be understood, even amidst misunderstandings.